The moment her knees buckled beside the red sports car, the world seemed to hold its breath. Oil-stained concrete, the smell of metal and heat, the echo of a garage mid-afternoon, and a woman in a flawless red dress clutching her side like something inside her had shattered. Her eyes, usually sharp and untouchable, flooded with fear. She kept shaking her head, insisting she couldn't go anywhere, that she didn't have time to fall apart. And yet there she was, trembling, breath shallow, pride cracking faster than the engine that had brought her in. In that instant, a single dad mechanic with grease on his hands and exhaustion in his bones made a choice that would change both their lives forever. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet heroes who show up when it matters most, take a moment right now to like this video, comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Everyday Heroes. Your support keeps stories like this alive. He had been tightening a bolt when he noticed her leaning too hard against the car. As a single father, he'd learned to read pain without words. Long nights with a sick child, mornings fueled by worry and cold coffee, had sharpened his instincts. He saw it in the way her shoulders caved inward, in the way her breath fought her chest. This wasn't impatience or entitlement. This was fear. Still, she tried to stand tall, brushing away help, insisting she had meetings, responsibilities, a life that couldn't pause for weakness. Wealth had taught her to command rooms, but it hadn't taught her how to be vulnerable. And vulnerability was winning. The mechanic lived a life measured in small victories. Keeping the lights on. Packing lunches. Fixing engines well enough to earn trust, if not praise. His garage was his second home, a place where broken things could be understood, not judged. He knew what it meant to feel trapped by circumstances, to believe stopping would cost you everything. Watching her struggle, he felt a familiar ache. The kind that comes when you recognize yourself in someone else's denial. Without ceremony, he decided she wasn't leaving like this. She resisted at first, tears streaking down carefully applied makeup, frustration colliding with terror. Her world ran on control, and control was slipping. But the pain kept pulling her downward, each second heavier than the last. He didn't lecture. He didn't scold. He simply acted. He supported her weight, guided her toward his old truck, and promised himself he would get her help, no matter what it cost him in time, money, or reputation. For once, the ticking clock in his head went silent. There was only now. The drive to the hospital felt longer than it was. Traffic lights blurred past. The city hummed, indifferent. She sat hunched, gripping the seat, her breath uneven. He kept his focus steady, every sense tuned to her condition. The irony wasn't lost on him. She probably owned cars worth more than his lifetime earnings, yet here she was, relying on a stranger with a worn steering wheel and a heart that refused to look away. In that confined space, stripped of status and armor, she was just a human being in pain. At the hospital, reality hit hard. Tests. Waiting rooms. The sterile smell of antiseptic replacing the scent of gasoline. As doctors moved quickly, the truth began to surface. The pain wasn't stress or exhaustion. It was serious. The kind of condition that grows quietly while life rushes on, demanding attention only when it can no longer be ignored. The kind that doesn't care how important you think you are. She lay there, finally still, finally listening, as fear gave way to something deeper, regret. He stayed. Even when he could have left. Even when his phone buzzed with messages from school pickup reminders and missed work. He arranged care for his child with a neighbor, counting favors he hated to owe. Sitting in that plastic chair, he felt the weight of his own life pressing down, yet he didn't move. He knew what it felt like to face uncertainty alone. He wouldn't let her do that, not today. As hours passed, her tears changed. They were no longer just about pain. They were about the years she'd spent outrunning herself. The marriages that failed, the friendships neglected, the health ignored. Success had become her shield, but it had also been her prison. Watching this man, tired, patient, quietly strong, she saw a version of wealth she'd never understood. He was rich in ways that didn't show up on balance sheets. Rich in presence. Rich in compassion. When the doctors finally spoke of treatment and recovery, relief washed through the room like a soft tide. It wouldn't be easy. It would require rest, changes, humility. For the first time, she didn't argue. She didn't calculate losses. She simply nodded, exhausted, grateful, and alive. And in that moment, something inside her shifted. Gratitude rooted itself where arrogance once lived. In the days that followed, she insisted on staying connected. Not out of obligation, but because something real had formed. She learned about his life. The early mornings, the late nights, the dreams postponed for a child who needed stability more than ambition. She saw how he loved without spectacle, how he showed up even when no one was watching. It unsettled her in the best way. She began to understand that her money had built walls, while his sacrifices had built bridges. Change didn't come in grand gestures at first. It came in small decisions. She took time off. She listened to her doctors. She slowed down. And quietly, she helped him too, not with charity, but with opportunity. Investments into the garage that respected his pride. Flexible support that honored his independence. She didn't want to save him. She wanted to stand beside him. For him, accepting help was its own battle. Pride is a heavy thing when you've survived on your own for so long. But he learned that strength could also mean allowing kindness in. That his child deserved a future with fewer closed doors. That sometimes, life surprises you by meeting your courage with grace. Months later, the garage looked the same from the outside, but everything inside had changed. Laughter came easier. Worry didn't sit as heavy. And somewhere between oil changes and hospital checkups, two very different worlds had found common ground. Not because of money. Not because of rescue. But because of a moment when one human saw another in pain and refused to look away. If this story is touching your heart so far, if it's reminding you that the smallest acts can carry the greatest power, please take a moment to engage with this video, like it, share it, and let others feel this hope too. Just before we end, we have a special request. Please comment below with the words, "Kindness changes everything," if you believe one choice can rewrite a life. In the end, she healed. He grew. And the world kept spinning, unaware of the quiet miracle that had unfolded in a mechanic's garage and a hospital hallway. But for those who lived it, everything was different. Because sometimes, the richest transformation doesn't happen in boardrooms or bank accounts. It happens when a single dad with grease on his hands chooses compassion over convenience, and a millionaire learns that the most valuable thing she ever received was help she didn't have to earn. And that is how everyday heroes are born.